Make sure everybody's turned on there. Okay, it's almost 6:30. Let's go ahead and get started. I think we've got pretty much everybody here ready to go. We do have a quorum. All members of the Planning Commission are present. We need to take a quick look at the agenda, if we need to make any changes or additions. And if not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we need to review the minutes from August 2nd, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay, motion is made
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. All right, we have several cases. First case is case number S-09-23-14. Mr. Marvin Jenkins and Mr. Andrew Gayhart have submitted a subdivision application to subdivide a 10.6 acre A1 agricultural zone parcel. The by right subdivision would create two new parcels and one residue parcel. The two new parcels would both contain 3.7 acres, and the one residue parcel would contain 3.2 acres. In June of 2023, the parcel subject to this subdivision request recorded a boundary line adjustment with an adjoining parcel identified on Madison County tax maps as 42-12A. This boundary line adjustment expanded tax map 42-12A and moved it to the east, where it now also adjoins tax map 43-3. The subject 10.6 acre parcel is located on Leon Road, Route 631, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 42-12. An existing dwelling to be demolished is located on the parcel and has a postal address of 375 Leon Road, Culpeper, Virginia, 22701. All right, Ligon, anything to add there?
No, I don't have anything really to add at this point.
Does anyone have any questions for Ligon on this? Okay, as always, then we will have some time for the applicant to address the Planning Commission, and following that, if there's any public comment, we'll have time for that. Are the applicants here? The applicants are not here then. Okay. If the applicants are not here, is there any public comment on this case? No public comment.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm Sean Gregg. I'm the Assistant County Attorney. Mr. Wright sends his regrets. He's neglecting his children tonight, so he's not able to be here. We have microphones just for the record.
Oh, that's all right. One of the concerns that I discussed with Mr. Wright is the fact that apparently this isn't quite so much a boundary adjustment as it is a relocation of a lot within a larger property. My understanding, and I've spoken with Mr. Wright about it, his understanding is that's not really a boundary adjustment. And so the significance of it is I think it makes sense to defer any recommendations on this until we have had a chance to explore the legalities of this a little more carefully. And let me explain kind of what can happen. If this becomes sort of a pattern, people can buy properties that have poor soils and everything else. They're not buying the land, they're buying the tax map parcel number. And, that may be a very clever way to, enhance development and increase the value of your properties. But I just think that Madison County needs to be very careful before it embarks on this path.
Thank you. Does anyone have any question or comment, especially comments at this point?
Well, even if you move that piece of property, you're creating a non-conforming lot. And it says in our ordinance that you cannot create a non-conforming lot.
That is correct.
So,
All the more reason to have additional review of this before this is.
yeah, I mean,
acted on.
our ordinance doesn't talk about boundary line adjustments. I've talked to other zoning administrators. I mean, taking an existing lot, as I said, if you want to leave it like that and say you can't expand it, move it, and make it a larger lot, then he's just not going to do it. I mean, no one's going to do it. In the 4 years I've been here, it's just maybe happened 2 or 3 times, and like this one, it is an improvement to a grandfathered situation. We probably have, I don't know, quarter of our lots in the county were created before, or smaller, and were created before a zoning ordinance. So I think we're making it way harder than it needs to be. I think we're overthinking it. It's an improvement. If you want to have a committee look at it, to maybe add some clear language in the code about boundary line adjustments. But if you do, I would not change it to where someone is, can make a situation like this better, expand a grandfather lot and put it in a better location, we have a better development. If that's going to be a recommendation, I don't think that's a good one. Again, I think we're making it more difficult than it needs to be. It's already recorded, and, this is, like I said, in my many years of situations and seeing plats like this is fairly routine to handle it this way, and it's an improvement to the situation. And I think we're kind of making it a little more confusing than we should.
Hey, Legan, so did that one leg remain the same, that one leg that would now be the east side of that, which is now the west side? Did that leg remain the same?
I believe so, yeah, right, that that right here, this one border has just sort of, it's been flipped over here. I mean, he just moved those boundaries, would qualify as boundary line adjustment. I mean, if you want to kind of study it in the committee, the Code of Virginia, I think Stephen looked it up, it really doesn't, we can kind of handle this any way we want, but I just, just implore you to just make this fairly simple. And again, right here, he just simply has taken this and flipped it over here and expanded it. That's a boundary line adjustment.
Well, on this particular diagram, it shows that east side on the west side of the driveway, on the new existing one, right there, that boundary line is over on the east side of the driveway. So it appears that line is moved to the other side of the driveway.
This line right here is the
No,
same.
the other one.
No.
Right, so this has been
That
moved.
one.
This line is the same. And he's just simply sort of taken this lot, if you just sort of flip it like a page and moved it down a little bit, made it larger.
He hasn't retained any of the original lines.
Yeah,
The problem that I see with this, and I did look it up, as you said, first of all, we probably do need to look at our ordinance a little bit, because the state doesn't call this a boundary line adjustment. That's a municipal action. They call it a property line variation or abandonment. And this is a rather remarkable boundary line adjustment in moving the whole thing. But that's insignificant too, because the one thing our ordinance does say is that this cannot result in a non-conforming lot. And this is less than 3 acres. It's a non-conforming lot. Now, if they wanted to do this and they made it 3 acres, okay. The other thing that puzzles me about why he did this at all, if you take the original acreage of the outer area and the original acreage of that little square in there and put them together, and he owns both, if I'm correct, right? That's enough so that he could have simply abandoned the original lot if he wanted to, subdivide the land, and he would have had enough acreage there to do all of his lots.
Again, Ligon, I'm not saying that this isn't making it better. This may be making the situation better, but in 19 years of sitting here and there, I have never ever seen anybody pick up a piece of land and move that piece of land. And in my view, he's taken a lot and just moved it into another lot without
I
doing.
mean, he owns both lots.
I understand he owns both lots.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you tinker with it, then he's just gonna say, in the future, they're just gonna say, okay, we'll just build in this grandfather lot.
That's
We won't,
fine.
we won't, we won't,
That's-
you know,
that's
we won't
right.
try to expand it, we won't put it in a better spot, we'll just leave it. And that to me is just sort of, just does, kind of defies,
My question is, when, I assume he came to you about the boundary adjustment, since it's an administrative process. Why not make it a 3-acre lot?
because it's a grandfather lot, it's
No.
already, it's only an acre. I
Moved
mean,
it
I
totally.
just disagree with that.
The
and that's
new
just,
lot
you know, I
cannot
just-
be non-conforming.
Yeah,
In
I
fact,
don't-
it says it's a new lot.
I mean, I'm the designee for the Board of Supervisors. I believe this is an appropriate way. Again, we've only done a few of these similar. If the Plan Commission wants to turn boundary line adjustments over to the Plan Commission, then that's their purview. We can do that.
It is administrative,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have to meet the ordinance.
I
The
we just
ordinance
have a
says
disagreement with that.
Can I
Respectfully.
ask-
Such a sale or exchange does not create an additional building lot or does not create a non-conforming lot. That's very clear.
It's already a non-conforming lot on record. So we're just going to have to move on with this. We can, you know, it's frustrating to me as much as frustrating it is to you.
One question, like last time you said, you know, that it was approved, you said it's already been
It's already
recorded.
recorded, right.
It's done.
Mhm.
It's already done.
Correct.
I mean, but then now came, because it's supposed to be able to be done administratively, but now we're looking at it, it was on the agenda, I don't even know why it was on the agenda.
They're subdividing the remaining land.
Right, the main one. I mean, had it been changed on GIS, I mean, I would have put it in there anyway. I mean, I'm not hiding anything, and this was what was done to the property, but I'm still just, you know, respectfully just disagree with, I think if you change it, then it's just gonna say, we'll build it like this. It's an acre, we're fine. We won't expand it, we won't put it in a better spot. And if that's what we want to move forward, and that's the way I'm told to interpret it, I can do that. And again, I'm talking maybe in 4 years, this is 2 or 3 times something anywhere close to this has been before me.
Any other question or comment?
Well, you know, I guess, is there a legal issue here that we need to worry about?
That is why I'm suggesting proceed cautiously, because I don't know whether there's a legal issue here or not. I did reach out to the people in the local government association of Virginia web service to see if anybody's got any insight. I did not hear anything before I drove over here. Now, in that regard, I posted that, I think, at 10 this morning.
And can it be undone?
If there has not been any actual reliance on it, I think that, you know, and again, I'm not certain of this answer either, but my sense is that, you know, the rights have not vested because no action has been taken in reliance on this decision, such as it is. That's a question Mr. Wright will be happy to research.
Yeah, and of course, this is informational meeting, we can't make decisions tonight anyway.
Correct.
So,
It may be appropriate, either defer this, I mean, I certainly don't think it's ready for any sort of public hearing, but figure out where you are with it and be confident in the opinion and move from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll just find that this is handled potentially differently in different communities. You know, I always say the latitude we're giving, and I think that, you know, moving this the way it does is nothing unusual or in any way. I don't think you're really going to get a lot back from you know, you might find different communities handle it different. As I said, if you want to add some formal language about boundary line adjustments, go for it. I have no issue with that, but in the lack of that, you know,
yeah, there's almost no guidance in the state code or in any ordinance that we have, so.
At this point, can we defer? Can we?
Well, I
move
think
to
we can
committee?
recommend, since the applicant's not here, I guess we just have to ask Ligon to tell him we would recommend that we defer this until?
Yeah, I'll take it off the I haven't sent the advertisement yet, so
Right.
it's not officially advertised. I have sent letters, but again, this is by right. I mean, it's kind of unusual to even have a hearing for something like this, but,
I'm just
But
puzzled. by
legally,
why-
Sean, I don't think we can take it off. The applicant has to take it
Yeah.
off, correct?
That is correct.
Hey, Legan, just asking, so if he would have done the same thing, but actually taken that 12A and putting it over there in the very opposite corner, are you saying that that would still remain the same thing because it was still a non-conforming lot? Or
I
are you
mean,
just
yeah,
saying because he moved it a little bit to the side?
right, I mean, I haven't really looked at I haven't seen a scenario like that. That's usually not the case. I mean, I don't really think so, but this is not the case here. I mean, he literally has just flipped the lines. I mean, I think it meets what a boundary line adjustment is.
It might have helped if the applicant was here before the meeting where we actually had, I mean, I assume we're gonna have to go ahead with this at the joint meeting now. It's on
No,
schedule.
I mean, I haven't advertised it. I don't know, I mean, we don't, what are we looking for?
The planning commission can't remove it.
I mean, it hasn't been, that's what I understand. Are we looking, I mean, we're looking for him to change it, but we, you know, that's what I don't understand. What exactly is the outcome we're looking for here? I mean, he's made a pretty simple boundary line adjustment, expanded a lot. I mean, do you think we would, I don't know. That's why I'm just confused.
I think, well, speaking for myself anyway, I think we're probably mostly concerned about the fact that it resulted in a non-conforming lot. If it had been a 3-acre lot. we
So
probably wouldn't
if
have
he
raised
was to
it.
do a boundary line adjustment with this lot and make it 3 acres, then we're good.
Yeah, or if he abandoned it totally and just subdivided the whole parcel, which he could also do. He's got enough land there to do that. And he would still end up with 4.
Okay, well, I can talk to Mr. Jenkins. I mean, he's very reasonable, but, I mean,
Yeah.
if he
that's
wants to
why I
bring in the
say
3 acres,
It would have been nice if they were here tonight, so we could
right,
discuss
I
it.
mean, he knows about it, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I will talk to him.
Yes.
And also, I think since we've had this issue and everybody seems to feel, or a lot of people do feel pretty adamant about it, I would say we need to put this on somebody's lap so they can stay, or legally first. If there's anything else legally would be where I'd like to see it go. And then if legal puts it back to us that we need to modify or amend that ordinance, then
Yeah.
somebody needs to look at
At the very
it.
least, we need to make our language coincide with the language that the state or the
I think
state
that's a
code
good
uses,
idea.
yeah.
We're doing that right now, sort of, with our other ordinances. I think that'd be very good.
Yes, sir.
In that regard, it might make sense to just reach out to Mr. Wright and, designate somebody from the planning commission to work with him to address these concerns.
I just did some quick math on this, and the 3 other parcels come up to 10.663 acres. So
Well,
he's still gonna be short .37.
the original large parcel was 1.39. The original small parcel was 1.25. So that total was 12.64. He could have made 4 lots averaging 3.13 acres.
That's right. I'm sorry, I meant, that's right.
Yep. That's why
I mean, I have a feeling that,
About why it's
Yeah, yeah.
I have I mean, not trying to, again, not trying to be, in any way, mocking or anything, but I have a feeling if it becomes an issue, he'll just record it back to where it was and just
which is
just put a
fine.
house on an
That's-
acre.
That's his perfectly
Right,
legal
I mean,
right.
that's probably what he'll
The
do.
rest of the subdivision is by right, as you
Yeah,
said.
so,
He's got .6 too much.
Okay, yeah, like you say, we do need to move on. Is there any other comment or discussion on that? Okay, a little disappointed that there is nobody here to discuss this with us tonight, because if we go forward, I guess what we need to do is ask you to see if he wants to postpone until we can get some more definitive legal advice. It's still up to him. He can say, no, I just want to go ahead with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, I don't know what advice we're gonna get. I mean, unless the advice is that we want to formalize and put in our code something more, definitive about boundary line adjustments.
Yeah, which would not affect this now anyway.
Right,
so.
I mean, that's something I can think of that would be, look around here, you can see all these different.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
there's no question that
I
that's
mean,
built
it's,
up area,
it's,
Mr. Chairman, is really the biggest issue here possibly that it's already been recorded and not the other issue that, what it could be, that it's already been recorded?
Yeah,
Is that kind of like number one that we should be looking at?
And that is certainly one of the points I'm going to make to Mr. Wright. But I think, unless they have taken actions in reliance on that, I think we have a pretty compelling argument that, we can reverse that.
Okay, anything else? All right, moving on to case number RZ-09-23-15. Building Together LLC, William Camden and Jerry Ward has applied to rezone a 2.2-acre parcel from A1 agricultural to B1 general business. The subject parcel contains two existing structures, a single-family dwelling containing roughly 1,584 square feet of interior floor area, and a two-story commercial structure containing roughly 1,936 square feet of interior floor area. Historically, the subject 2.2-acre parcel structures have been utilized for business/commercial purposes, and if rezoned, the applicants intend to utilize the existing structures for by-right business uses, specifically retail and/or professional offices. The subject property contains two postal address points, 6279 and 6267 South Seminole Trail, Rochelle, Virginia, and the parcel is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 55-35B. Anything further on that, Ligon?
no, just since is this work? Yep, since the last meeting, we'll get them to sign this, but I did we worked with the applicant on a draft proffer letter. I guess you can read if you have any questions. I didn't change the 10 employees, but they did contact, the either or 10 employees or whatever the soil scientist says the existing tank will allow based on its size. They have a soil person coming out there to give them that certification that would take to the health department. And hopefully, we would believe it's going to come any day now. Mr. Camden said that he expects them, hopefully by the 6th, but either way, that number is going to dictate the number of maximum people on site at any given time, if that makes sense. So he has them on the schedule. Just want to make you aware of that.
Okay, any question for Ligon?
So Ligon, would we want to take that 10 out and let the soil scientists, the health department determine what that number should be?
That's fine. That it really, I don't think it's going to be more than 10, but they've kind of been clear that they don't really expect it to be anywhere near 10 as far as employees on the site, but,
Well, if they got a good system and they come back with 14 and they wanted to expand, I'd hate to see them have to come back in here to ask for 4 more employees.
Ms. Campbell, does that sound good? Just leave it at what the soil person? Okay, we can,
I wouldn't limit yourself,
Yeah, it's going to be limited by the
The
system
health
anyway.
department's
Yeah,
gonna limit
right,
it.
yeah.
Would that have any bearing on the road access, turn lane or anything like that?
Yeah, do we have any?
no, well, he's,
response?
Mr. Nguyen is going to go out this week. It's got it on his work schedule, so I suspect they're going to say that it's right in that right turn lane. It's like right where it starts. I have a suspect based on, what he's proposing, that there really would be any significant concerns with VDOT. It's also, right in, right out, so you can't cross traffic there. Just go in and out.
Can you pull it up on the GIS for us? Just because it seemed like it was really well, or maybe something, just where we can see that turn lane coming in. I just seem to remember it was, like you
Yeah.
said, right at the beginning.
Can you go, yeah,
Or
there you go,
something.
the Google Earth, yeah, now magnify that.
See, so I mean, people don't even really have a chance to get into the turn
It's,
lane to
it's
get
right
it.
there.
Mm-hmm. So they're definitely going to have to be slowing down, and that's my only thought is,
Yeah, that's the turn lane for the next entrance.
not
So
that,
where is-
not that they're gonna say the septic's suitable for 30 employees,
Right.
and you're gonna make some giant business and have, you know, issues, but, yeah. Yeah. It was just a thought as far as VDOT assessing it, that if they had a number, it might be better.
I mean, certainly the entrance itself looks like it's probably already a commercial entrance. And that large building was used as a business in the past, I think. Yeah. But there's a turn lane prior to that, and that's the beginning of a second turn lane. But that, for a small commercial entrance, I'm not sure. See, that's why we need to have VDOT's input on it, because I'm not sure whether they would require a turn lane for a low-volume commercial entrance. So, again, we need that input, I think. So, have
Yeah.
you got any idea when that's going to be?
Yeah, I think Mr. Wynn's supposed to go out this week and look at it. I've sent it to him, the letter's in there, I sent it to him several weeks ago. So
Mhm.
he's got it on his to-do list, and,
So hopefully before our.
oh, it'll definitely be before September 6th.
Any other question for Legan? We've kind of already been responding with the applicant. Would you like to answer any questions or ask us anything? Anybody have a question for you? Mostly seems pretty straightforward. We just would like to have more detail about that entrance, I think. Okay. At this point, then, any public comment on this case? All right, if not, let's move on to the third case. Case number RZ-09-23-16. Mr. Angel Vieira has applied to rezone a roughly 1.4 acre portion of a 4.4 acre parcel from A1 agriculture to B1 business with conditions. The applicant is seeking to operate an automotive repair shop from the existing garage structure located on the parcel. Historically, the parcel's existing garage structure has been utilized as an automotive repair shop. The subject parcel contains two postal address points, with the existing garage addressed as 3108 Shelby Road and the parcel's existing single-family dwelling addressed as 3090 Shelby Road. The subject parcel is also identified on Madison County tax maps as 55-16. All right, Ligon, anything to add there?
So, actually, we were talking about that distance between that and the garage. It's about 80 feet. Not that, I didn't think it was 100, but we did create a list of proffers that will get signed here by Ms. Ramos, definitely before the meeting. Probably could have done it tonight, but you will see the proffers. And I went down to the site today and talked to them about the number of junk cars, putting the 10, having 10 that would be out, and in the back, in this area, I'll show you on the map right here. I'm sure, so right in here, she is getting this cleared very soon to establish that area back here where any overflow would be in a fenced-in area. That'll be back in this area. She has someone coming in. On the soil sciences, the soil person, evaluator, did in the proffer, give it to February 1st, and she is on the schedule for a soil person to come out and perk and get that process going. You know, we're pretty busy right now, so on the schedule, but as part of the proffer, like we've done with other garages, give until, I'd say February 1st, to have that installed.
All right, so at this point, we do not have the health department information. Do we have any VDOT about the entrance or anything?
No, that's another one that he'll probably go out and look at that one too. So we'll have all those. I mean, this has got excellent sight distance either way. I don't think they're going to have any issues. But Mr. Nguyen, that's another one we'll have definitely, you know, before the 6th. So they'll give us their correspondence.
At the first workshop, when we were considering this, we realized that the proposed B1 parcel did not meet the required setbacks. Have you said you were going to go out and measure the actual distances there? Can you update?
It did. It's 80 feet from the edge to the building.
80 feet from the building to the house?
Mm-hmm.
All right. How far, can you tell us how far it would be from the building to the closest border of the proposed B1 zone?
Yeah, so it's about halfway in between.
So we're looking at 40 feet instead of 50 feet?
Correct.
So what's the distance from the existing property to the property line or to the building from the existing properties, the neighbors? Do you know that?
Well, let me see here.
Because if the existing property is zoned A1,
This is not the property line, but it's, this property line this is not a survey, it's really moved over here. And I don't, is this a house right here? I mean, does someone live in it? Yeah, I don't think it's like grown up, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know if it's any,
but wouldn't it have to be a certain setback from an existing piece of property to zone that B1?
I don't know.
John?
Sitting here, I'm just thinking out loud here. Would this make more sense as a special use permit, given the,
Didn't have the acreage.
did not have the acreage? Okay, well, that answers that. Yeah, my concern is a rezoning is going to basically create a non-conforming lot. You know, if you're in violation of the setbacks under, you know, B1, you know, we have the same problem. I'm wondering if Hannon's really on vacation. But I'm kidding.
I mean,
But,
we've done sort of some small zonings for B1. I mean, we knew this was kind of a workaround. It's a grandfathered lot. I mean, it's a grandfathered garage, was there for 40 years. You know, we can't do this. I agree, special use permit's the best way to go. I mean, that's the easiest way, but that's not a possibility for 3 acres. So this is the other option. If there's too many technicalities with this that we just can't seem to work through, we just got to tell them they're in violation, have to move it out. You know, I'd argue that it was grandfathered, that we could work with the applicants to just clean the property up and just consider it a grandfathered situation, have them bring it in compliance. They're willing to do anything, but if it's too technical, then we just need to tell them we can't find a way to do this.
Unfortunately,
you know.
we can't really call it grandfathered because didn't it go through a period of non-use for several years?
I'm not really sure, but I mean, it was.
Yeah, it was over 2 years.
Okay,
it
so,
broke
you know.
well, and if that's the case, then it is not
It was in
a
non-use for over 2
non-conforming
years.
use.
So,
Correct.
just trying to work around, I thought the special use permit would be the best way. the easiest, but that's not an option. If this is not an option, then just not have a garage there.
Of course, one of the biggest things, in my opinion, is the way that it's been kept for
Right, and that's what I was hoping.
the
we could-
illegal use, since it's been illegally used for like the last year and a half, is not being kept up well at all.
One point of clarification. Ligon, you indicated that there have been some proffers. Were these volunteered by the applicant, or are these things we asked for?
We worked together to come up with them.
So they were ultimately the decision of the applicant
Yes,
and not the county?
we worked
Because with
together to
a-
come up with them.
With a rezoning, we cannot,
Right, yeah.
demand proffers.
We
We can with the special use permit.
So as it stands right now, the principal difficulty is the fact that it does not meet the minimum setback.
Uh,
So,
I mean, it doesn't meet a lot of, this is, in my opinion, I mean, it's a solution to create a non-conforming situation that's been here, the garage, we can't move the garage. This is the most practical solution to it. I mean, I think the most practical is to give them special use permit, but if that's not possible, then the other option is to rezone a portion of it. They're not subdividing it off. It's sort of similar to what we did up on James City Road. The guy's got a business, got a pretty good business. They want to comply, they want to do whatever it takes. But if bureaucracy won't allow it, won't allow it.
do we have any leeway? I mean, there are existing buildings, they've been there for years. Do we have any leeway about that setback?
I believe we do. I mean, no one's showing up to tell us that that's the issue. I think the issue that we have is just trying to keep the property clean and getting it compliant with building code. And that's an improvement to what it is now. So, I mean, I believe we have the ability to rezone a portion of the property. It's not going to meet all the codes, but again, it's an unusual situation.
What's the improvement, Ligon?
Well, he's compliant with building code. He'll have a bathroom.
So what do we have to tell the neighbors around there that it's gonna be kept up? Because
Well, I've
we
talked
have
to,
nothing, right?
I've talked to the applicants. We'll have these conditions that they've said that they would do, and I'll hold them to it, and we can enforce it like any other zoning regulation.
The thing we gotta look at here is, and I see it's not meeting all the ordinances and all the setbacks maybe, but if Mr. Taylor was still living, guess what? It'd still be operating. Mr. Taylor unfortunately passed away and somebody else bought the property. Do we wanna make this little business go away? Or do we wanna try to do something to maybe salvage this little business? And I understand that we're not meeting the setbacks or whatever, but if there's some way that we can make this work, I'm not totally against trying to make this work because, like I say, if Mr. Taylor was still living, the shop would be running there and we wouldn't be bothering him. We all know that sitting here.
That's right.
I guess ultimately it's Sean's call to tell us we legally can or we legally can't. Welcome back, Sean.
Gee, I'm Gladys Smith all over again. Another path, and I haven't researched this just came up, they could always, appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I think they could clearly demonstrate some sort of a hardship. What that does is it kind of protects the integrity of this process and puts the decision with regard to, unusual circumstances and exceptions, that is within the ambit of the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's a thought.
Mr. Chairman, and Ligon, there is one other option, as I see it, and that would be to rezone the whole thing business and then turn around and do a SUP for the house. You could do it that way. Yep. That's an option, because then the lot size goes away.
Right.
And
If the shop's meeting the setback from the adjacent property, or?
Oh,
Yeah, it looks like it
It's,
does.
when
yeah.
it's business, it's a whole lot, less setback.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna change where the houses are on the existing properties.
No.
So, I mean, that, that's not gonna happen.
It's only
I-
required 50 feet, right?
I understand Corey's point, but I think we've gone down this road. I've put it, we've talked about it for,
They-
for,
they may
for
be
months.
reluctant to do that, yeah.
I still think this is the easiest route, to just rezone again, I go back to the Leon example as sort of a precedent.
That didn't
I-
violate any ordinance.
Yeah, I still,
But that's what
And
we were accomplishing.
if this was approved, I just think it's very adamant that the county strictly enforce not letting them pile up junk. I think that's very adamant for this to be approved.
Just one point, remember the county attorney's role is to make sure that you follow the process. You know, in terms of policy decisions, I defer to the collective wisdom. But, you know, where there is a problem with, you know, the procedures that we have and, you know, what our ordinances say, you know, that's really where my role begins.
Legan, have you had to issue them any letters to be cleaned up around there?
yes, we did at one time, they were gonna close it. I thought were thinking about closing it, but, Ms. Ramos has decided she would like to rent it, and
And they had a deadline to get all that cleaned up and whatnot?
at one time, it was gonna be September 1, but
Have they made efforts to?
well, today she said that they were gonna get this area cleaned, and, because there's some brush there, and you move those kind of overflow cars there.
Basically, the condition number 3 that they have proffered is to deal with that situation.
That's correct.
Any other comment specifically about this setback problem?
So are we allowed to recommend this for approval with the setback between the house
It's
and the garage?
non-conforming.
Non-conforming?
You won't go to prison for it. You can make whatever recommendation. Remember, you're an advisory body to a legislative body. So you can make whatever recommendation you would like to make, the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors are the ones who vote on this.
We're the ones that go to jail.
The ones that get sued, yeah.
That's
How
all
about if
right.
the
See, I'm
septic
not
field
sure
doesn't
again
get
anyway.
approved?
All right, assuming we go that route, the BZA appeal, that can only take place after being turned down by the
Right.
Board of Supervisors, is that correct? Am I,
No, BZA appeal is not for, it's only an administrative denial. Can you appeal to the BZA? It's not for a legislative.
In which case, the remedy is
It might
circuit
be.
court.
Yeah, right. I mean,
all right, well, basically, at this point, it is an administrative denial because it doesn't meet the setbacks. Could they go before the BZA to get that before coming back to us?
well, it's not Zone B1 yet. I think the better play is just to maybe take this to the BZA, consider it grandfathered, and see if I'll make an opinion. I believe it could be considered grandfathered. I mean, there's been someone there for a long time, and just simply have them go before the BZA. If they also concur with my opinion that it's grandfathered, then we can then just work as an enforcement mechanism and just get them to comply with the building code, get the bathroom in, and store the cars. That might be a way to make this so non-confusing. I have just been following what, I'm trying to work with them, I guess, just to make this work.
Yeah,
and,
I think we've made it clear
Right.
that we would like to also.
Right. So maybe that would be a better, is just to consider it grandfathered. It was a garage for 40 years. And if the BZA concurs, we're going to have a hearing in September, then simply they get their structure up to building code, which we know we have to do, get their bathroom installed, and then also keep the cars clean. I think that might be a better process.
How about they can't get the soils for their septic field?
I mean, they're gonna have to have that for a commercial garage. They could put an alternative system in, but.
There's a lot of ways you can get that done.
Right.
Oh, sure, I understand that.
But it does, those
gets
soils are
costly.
good, and, you know, and this is really, like I said, just to backtrack, it's just a philosophy that I have people come in the office, is they've got a guy that's got a business, he's doing well, and, you know, we work with our codes. My inclination is to say, look, let's see how we can find a path forward with this. And, you know, and that's just how I'm gonna continue to operate.
I think we're agreeing.
Right.
At this point.
And there's a couple different ways this could be done, you know, we could look at it different ways, special use permit, rezone, so
What
if,
would be the procedure then if we recommend to them that they go before the Board of Zoning Appeals? Do they have standing at this point to do
right,
that?
so I could just simply consider that it's a grandfathered use, that they will improve the building, that they will put the bathroom in, and that opinion can be taken to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and if they concur, then they're good to operate.
Okay, so what exactly would they be appealing the?
They would just
lack of
simply say,
setback, or?
they would be appealing that it's a grandfathered use, that the garage is a grandfathered use.
Which would then mean it wouldn't have to be rezoned at all.
That's right.
Just remember, the issue there is the 2-year. And if there is some evidence that that it was less than 2 years.
I mean, Ms. Ramos, people have, how long was it empty after Mr. Taylor passed away? I mean, was it, because you've had people in there, but ever since I've been here, I don't, you know. So she could just present that to the BZA, that this has been operating, it didn't lapse for that long? Is that what I'm understanding?
What is it, a 2-year lapse? Is that-
2 years is what it is in here, yeah. And it can go from a welding shop to an automotive shop and do the same thing. Because it was a welding shop.
Yeah, I mean, welding, automotive, I think those are, we could, I think, it's like or similar.
But that has nothing to do with cleaning it up.
No, and that's the one of the things that's creating a problem for me. The rezoning request and the proffers therein are where the offer to clean it up is. And if they go before the
But they're in violation
BZA,
right now, so following enforcement.
I mean, we can still, if it's grandfathered, just say if it was considered to be grandfathered by the Board of Zoning Appeals, we could still enforce our ordinance, you know, and say, look, you know, and you're willing to do that, I mean.
Well, it hasn't worked at this point. That's what I
Go
think
ahead
it was-
first.
It's not like it was a great building and property and it's going downhill. You know, obviously it's gonna serve everybody in the community best being in operation.
Yeah.
So I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. President, Chairman. Not President, Chairman. I'm thinking, my mouth is working before my brain gets in gear. So you've ordered it to be cleaned up according to what we say it has to be, well, whether it's past here or whenever. And it doesn't happen, so you said you threatened maybe to shut it down? That would still remove the cars? Who does this? I mean, in a practical standpoint, when could we expect to see those cars gone? And if we're going to do that, I'll just add this on that tail of it. I could give you addresses, 10 of them right now, and we aren't doing anything about it. I ride by all the time. That I'm sure are probably in violation of something. I mean, I'm shocked sometimes when I look past the bushes, not necessarily even the bushes, on a lot of our properties. Like I said, I'm sure we have addressed this somewhere, but we need to be, I want to be transparent and consistent. That's goal, not just for this property, but all of them. So we don't have a plan, then why make the rule?
Yeah, I mean, we can still, I mean, if someone has the cars, you know, we get a complaint, or if we see it, you know, if it's egregious, we send the letters, we can go to court. We've been to court over junk cars, Sean and I have, and it's a civil fine. You know, it's not a criminal. I mean, fines pile up eventually. Usually if you go to court, send a letter, usually most folks will clean it up. You know, the same situation can happen here or anywhere. We could say, look, we need this to clean up by a certain date, regardless of, you know, whatever decision we make as far as where you want to move forward, that can still happen.
Do you remember how long they've had since you issued that?
I thought when I issued that, the thought was they were going to shut this down, but then she decided she was going to rent it to someone else. So, you know, at one time they thought that it was not going to continue. So,
Are the derelict cars that are there, was that the current applicant, or was that a previous person? Was there someone different who was operating the shop, or is this the same?
los coches ya con la persona que tiene garaje antes de. Sí. Was it his cars? Minor, los coches que está en además garaje. Sí. Es su coche, sí, sí. No, they're his.
What was the question? What was
I asked if those were the previous owner or or their cars. So those cars are all the current.
The 10 or the 11 that are over to the side? that have
Right,
been
right.
there,
Mhm.
That haven't moved in a year and a half?
No, I think those, they said they're all his cars, so.
Okay, so I guess we're at the question becomes, as Pete says, we don't want to discourage the business, but we do want, I mean, we're kind of up against between a rock and a hard place, because the setback's not adequate.
Well,
And so I think all of us are uncomfortable with
yeah, I mean,
doing a non-conforming.
the more I think about it, I think this could be just a simple, take it to the BZA for to see if they interpret that it would be considered grandfathered. And if so, we'll just work with getting the building up to code, the bathroom, and the cars compliant with.
So that leaves them with the possibility that the BZA rules against them, and then they're back to square one again.
Then you rezone, go SUP.
I just want to ask one question.
Well, they can't do an SUP because it's less than 6 acres.
No, if you
Second-
rezone the business,
To be one.
you rezone the whole
The
thing
whole
to
lot to be
business.
one.
Yeah.
Then you go SUP for the dwelling,
Yeah,
8-2-2.
yes.
Yes. So I have another question. Just a practical question. Is there a recent survey, and we're talking 10 feet here on the setback, just for the practicality of that? According to 50 here and 40 you say. Is there a survey, is there something that you can actually see
But you measure.
legally? I mean, we need legal something, I think, if they're going to go this close. At least I would be if it were my property. I'd be screaming about that.
How close can the A1, the house on A1, how close can that be to a property line? That's only 10 feet.
25 feet.
25?
Right, I don't, I mean, again, that's not necessarily property line, but it's very possible that
Well,
that
if
house
you
is,
rezone it, that would be equivalent.
It's very possible that house, you know, is close to the property
Either
line.
side is 25.
Right,
But everything we're talking about is irrelevant if you're gonna send it to the BZA.
that's right, we don't need to talk about it.
Ligon's saying he can convince them that it's grandfathered, but the definition, it's clearly, we're pretty sure it was vacant for more than 2 years.
Proof?
But, yeah, well, that's not up to us.
Well, they could try that route and see how it works, and if not, we'll come back and try to rezone the whole property to
Yeah,
B1.
I mean, Cardy's idea is intriguing.
I personally have no issue with a applicant wanting to essentially encroach on themselves. If it was like on a neighbor's property and they're, you know, not within the, you know, decision-making power of that, it's totally different. But to me, you know, and obviously we want to be consistent, but, you know, nobody's going to buy, you know, if we did do that and say, well, 40 feet's good, you know, or whatever, that 80 feet between the buildings is good enough, anybody that bought it down the road would be aware of that. There wouldn't be any situation where somebody didn't know what they were getting. I'm good with, you know, whatever path the board.
Yeah, is there,
Definitely.
you say it's about 80 feet between
Mhm.
the two buildings. Is there a reason that you can't just, is it that tight on the numbers as far as the amount of land left to leave it 3 acres? I mean, is there any reason you can't move that rezoning line 10 feet? That's what I'm saying. Because if you only need 25 from the house corner, and you only need 50 from the corner of the shop, that's only 75, and you said you measured 80 feet between them. Is there, would that interfere with the driveway, or would it interfere with something else?
No?
All right, now, so the next question, can it be rearranged that way, still keep the, at least 3 acres for the A1 part?
Yeah, I could move this line a little bit. That's a little deeper than it needs to be, and just, you
Right
mean
now,
like,
the
you mean
only
like
thing-
move this right here?
Yeah, the thing that's causing everybody heartburn is that 40 feet instead of 50 feet.
So you're saying if this is 50 feet from here?
Yeah, if you just make sure when you do this, draw the line so that you have 50 feet setback from that line, you would still have more than 25 feet from the house on the A1,
Okay.
problem solved. Any discussion on that? Can we do that? I mean, the applicant didn't actually draw the lines there, did they?
We work together to
We worked
kind of
together.
say,
So, I mean,
this is
it's-
what,
It's legal for us to readjust those lines? I don't.
They're not official yet, are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Right. That's the whole problem, is the setback.
I think it, again, it goes back to what the, I think it does make sense to
Have a survey, but, you know,
Yeah.
setting aside the issue of, you know, the 2-year lapse or whatever it was, if it is internal, I think Mr. Cowan is correct. You know, there's really nobody's being particularly harmed by it.
Right.
It's vaguely akin to a
Boundary lines.
boundary
that's-
adjustment. And, you know, maybe that's, you know, there's some things you just hold your nose and approve.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that may be where you are with this.
it sounds to me like the majority of us want to approve the rezoning if we can avoid having a non-conforming lot.
And I think it is important to avoid having the non-conforming.
Yes.
so we simply draw this back where it's 50, then, and that's 30, then when we,
Yeah, and then it looks like you can probably, if you need to, for the number of square feet that's appropriate.
Take a look
you
at the back
can
here.
readjust one of the other lines.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a design professional assisting the applicant on this? a surveyor or an engineer or anything?
No, they had an engineer that went through the garage to tell it what needs to be done to comply, but we're just working off the GIS, which, don't get me wrong, I mean, those GIS measurements are pretty good. I mean, I think we said last week that we had about 75 feet between those two buildings, so we can get it down pretty good on going out and walking this off, so.
And the owners are not required to have a survey or anything if they do a rezone, is that correct?
No, I mean, it's sort of like,
I mean, ordinarily, if you sold property, you would
I mean,
have a
they're not
survey.
dividing the lot off.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, you just kind of remember like in Leon, I just keep
Yeah,
pointing to that
It's not
one.
a subdivision, okay.
I mean, we did that one and we changed the map and we got our map here, where is James City?
Another thought, how, if there is not a survey or an engineered drawing, how are we going to know where A1 ends and B1 begins? I'm sorry, that was Faye's point.
Well, I mean, it was.
But you made it better.
It was alluding to that, though. I mean, it's like, if you don't even know where your lines are, how can you possibly?
Right,
know
And
where
that,
you
and that
are?
creates a huge enforcement issue.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we do know where the lines are. We have a pretty, like I said, I'll just show you what we did like in Leon here. I mean, that's what we,
Well,
Well,
I
then they
mean,
need to be maybe legally.
Well,
Th-
I have
this
done
is
enough
anecdotal.
tax sales to know that boundary lines that are shown on the tax maps are not always
No,
accurate.
they're not at all.
but
Hey, Ligon, does making that a B1, that lot, does that change does that affect 5516A or 5517A? I mean, because they're R1, correct? Does that change any? I think they're R1, aren't they?
Yeah, I would guess those are A1, but I don't know the answer to that.
yeah,
Oh, no, you're right, I think they are A1.
Yeah, most of that area is,
There's smaller lots on that road.
yeah, there are some residential areas further down, but even they may be A1, because they're old.
Still may be A1.
You know, anecdotally, talking about the GIS map, I know specifically, personally, of at least one case where the surveyor, quote, came in and used the GIS map to set his points, even though there were existing points that could be found. And he says that's what they do, and he said he does it all the time.
no, if we'd have had this 10, 15 years ago, we would have just been absolutely,
Yeah.
you know, the relative accuracy you can get on this. There are some, when you lay the parcels, like you have this situation here where sometimes it will, but
All right. If that's-
overall, it's
if
good.
that's agreeable, before we have this before the joint meeting, if we can make, that really wouldn't change anything in the advertisement, would it?
No, it's still 1.4 acres as we advertised. I mean, it,
Make it meet the setbacks, and we can go from there. Conforming. Yeah, make a conforming lot, yeah.
so just to make clear, I'm going to move this backward. This is 25 feet and this is 50.
No, you're gonna make it conforming.
Right.
But I want to make sure that I understand.
Yeah. If we actually have 80 feet between those two buildings, then we've got room enough to do a 50-foot setback on one side and a 25 on the other.
Okay.
side. More than 25 on the other side.
I would encourage the applicant to get this surveyed and get that to everyone in advance, because we're going to have the enforcement issue that Ms. Oots pointed out. And then the other part of it is, you know, most of the local surveyors are familiar with our ordinances, and they will know what needs to be in there. I mean, it puts y'all in a difficult position in a workshop like this
Yeah.
to make sure that you're covering all of these things, and I think it's important that they all be covered.
I mean, we can't require that, but we can certainly recommend it.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
The point is, too, if he ever should decide to do something later with this,
Right.
we're not going to be disputing, nobody would dispute a
line.
current,
Right.
I mean, both properties I've had recently. The older surveyor was all over the place,
Yeah.
shall I say, from what we had in the county way back. And if I had not had mine surveyed, I learned a whole lot by having it surveyed. I mean, a whole lot that we didn't even know, the family didn't know. So I'm just saying, it just tells you so much information, because they do accurately decide and make decisions on where things are. And it's so valuable And it'll be valuable for the applicant going forward, if he should decide to sell or whatever. He will have that survey.
If we could have that, the R1, so it does meet the requirements of a conforming lot. We have it all in place, it would go through just like that at the joint meeting.
I mean, we're not going to be able to get a surveyor out there to do it. Again, I could go out and walk it and sort of like we did with the Leon one, just use that and come very close to what we would rezone, and that's what we would put on our map, but they won't have any time before here in September to do that, so, I
Well,
mean,
when you do the rezoning, that would go on the GIS map, correct?
that's right.
So you would have points designated
Mhm.
that the surveyor would use anyway.
I remember that one we did out here, sure, like here. I mean, this is ones that we
Yeah, I
just,
mean, that's,
same thing, we did the same thing here.
it was essentially the same situation because it was that one person owned the whole piece.
Mhm.
And you did, and as long as nobody sells it or buys it, then there's no problem. And we really can't require a survey. I know we can't.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the concern that I got, I got a strong feeling that the drain field is not gonna go on this property of piece of B1. So the drain field is gonna be put on an easement on another piece of property adjoining it. So does that piece of property, that easement get recorded with that piece of B1?
Yeah, it would actually be on the same property, just wouldn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the B1 portion of the property.
Well, it still leaves, in the future, would this be a problem?
It could conceivably be a problem. The way most real estate attorneys work around that is they just grant easements to, you periodically see well easements and septic easements in situations exactly like this where somebody's allowed to have their drain field or their well on somebody else's property with various rights attendant to it. Since this is one property, technically an easement is kind of merged into the property itself, so it wouldn't matter, but it would be very helpful to make sure that there are detailed notes about how this has been done. And again, going back to, particularly the enforcement issue, knowing where B1 ends and A1 begins is potentially going to be an issue, if there are any problems with the property.
But it's probably an issue that we're already open to anyway because it's been done this way quite a bit without a survey.
That was before I got here.
Yeah. But that's all right, Hannah will take care of it. That's right. Okay, does that sound like instructions that we can, can you work with them and?
Yeah, so I'm going to, based on the measurements, I'm going to just create the 1.4 acres where the distant garage is 50 feet back from the edge of the B1, and the house is 25 feet from the edge of the B1.
Because the drawing we have is arbitrary anyway, so there's no reason we can't make a change.
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
haven't
there's-
changed the 1.4 acres.
There's no physical reason that we can't do that, is there?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally do it, but it'll be on the GIS, and I think it will be very within a few feet, I mean, with right there accurate.
And that's, the GIS measurements are what the taxation is done on anyway.
Right.
Does that sound good?
That was easy.
Yeah, it only took us 45
Well,
minutes.
that's what we're working up, talk it through.
Yeah. I mean, because, I think I'm right. We pretty much all wanting to be able to operate the business and operate the business under the conditions that he's proposed. Okay. All right. Any public comment? Before I forget, as usual. Okay. Very well. Next case. Case number S-09-23-17. County View Homes LLC, Mr. Alvin Ash, has applied to subdivide an existing R1 limited residential and A1 agriculture split-zone parcel. The 17-acre parcel contains roughly 3 acres, which is zoned A1, and the remainder is zoned R1. The by right subdivision would create 6 new parcels and 1 residue parcel for a total of 7 parcels. The new R1 zone parcels would consist of 3 parcels containing 1.9 acres and 3 parcels containing 2.2 acres. The split-zoned A1/R1 residue parcel would contain 4.6 acres. The applicant has provided 2 potential subdivision layouts for consideration. Option 1, in accordance with Article 4-8-3, private roads of the county subdivision ordinance, the survey shows parcels 1 through 6 served by a new private road connected to Ridgeview Road, Route 607, and the residue parcel served by the existing Old Home Place Lane, which, which is an established private road. Or option 2, in accordance with Article 4-1-3, variations and exceptions of the county subdivision ordinance. The survey shows parcels 1 and 2 being served by a new private road connected to Ridgeview Road, and parcels 3 through 6 and the residue parcel, for a total of 5 parcels being served by the existing Old Home Place Lane. If option 2 is approved, Old Home Place Lane would serve 9 parcels. Regardless of the chosen option, a private road shall be developed and maintained in accordance with Articles 4-8 through 4-8-4 and Article 6-2-1 and 6-2-2 of Madison County subdivision ordinance. The subject parcel does not contain a postal address, but is located on Ridgeview Road, Route 607, Brightwood, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 32-38. Anything to add there, Ligon?
I don't have anything to add, but I guess there's some concern regard Old Home Place Drive, Home Place Lane, and Mr. Esch's, these lots of use of it. So I'll just let, I think there's someone here to talk about that, so I'll just kind of defer.
Okay. Before we do that, does anyone have a question specifically just for Ligon at this point? Okay, then let's go to the applicant, or I assume you meant the applicant was here to address questions.
Yep,
Mr.
he is
Ash?
here.
Yeah. And if you would, make sure the microphone is on, state your name, and we'll go from there.
I'm Al Esch, Country View Homes. Here to answer any questions or any discussion you guys would like to have.
Questions for Mr. Ash?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
sir.
have one. Mr. Ash, has your attorney had a chance to respond to the letter from Roderick Slayton, which I became aware of this afternoon?
He's here this evening, and they conversed this afternoon, and he's welcome to share what he has on his mind.
Okay, well, no, my question is, has Mr. Will responded?
He hasn't with a letter, no.
All right,
We talked on the phone, and Mr. Will and the attorney spoke on the phone as well.
okay, very good, thank you.
Since that's a potential issue, do you want to ask the attorney to come in? Yes, yes, sir. If you would, use the mic and state your name, et cetera, and all that good stuff. Thank you.
Moniero, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your name right. She tried to correct me.
Is the mic on? Ligon, is that mic on?
Okay. The issue becomes is that she actually owns the road. If you look at the tax map and the tax map numbers, there's 2 parcels of land there. They're 37M, which is .832 acres, and 3237N, which is .418 acres. She actually gets there's a separate tax parcel number for both the 20-foot right-of-way and a 10-foot right-of-way. She owns properties back there. She owns 3 additional properties, 3216A, residence, 37A, which has a residence, 37B, which has a residence. There are two other houses back there and two other potential lots, and three other potential lots back there. The predecessors entitled to the current owners of lot, of parcel, let's see if I get the numbers right, 3238, which is the parcel where they're trying to obtain the right-of-way, did obtain in a deed in 1946, part of which is included, I've included the whole portion of the language. The problem was that the people, the carpenters and the weavers who conveyed the 10-foot wide section to my client's predecessor entitled tried to reserve to themselves the use of the right-of-way. Well, Mr. Frey, who received the right-of-way, never signed the deed. Therefore, he never conveyed anything to the carpenters or the weavers, so that the only right-of-way that exists that would be available for use is the 10-foot right-of-way. They do not have any access to the additional 20-foot right-of-way because there's actually no grant. You can't reserve the right to something that you don't own. So my client objects to the use of that road for any purposes of section 3738, I believe.
However, Mr. Will would contend that though it wasn't signed, they did go ahead and record, so thereby they were agreeing to the terms and to the conditions.
That's not what my response with Mr. Will was, Dan. Mr. Gregg probably is chawing at the bit to get involved.
Can you point out?
This is the same problem, and I'm just talking to the clerk about it, with people who go over and file a plat with a plat affidavit. The plat affidavit records showing what exists there. But if you put a right-of-way on that plat, that new plat, that plat affidavit doesn't record it because there's no grant. Mr. Frey never granted anything of that 20 feet.
Ligon, can you show the parcels we're talking about here up there?
Right here?
All right, now, that long rectangle, that's the subdividing area, right? All right, where are these two parcels that we're talking about, 32, 37?
The little bitty skinny ones.
32, 37, and 32, 37, M.
One of the things
All
that
right.
I'm confused about, Mr. Gregg, is if Mr. Slayton says that woman owns all the right-of-way, how is everybody entitled to use it?
Well, she bought her property from, let's see, Hebron Valley owned all of the property back there. She bought it from them.
Fallstedter.
And they still own two lots that I technically think have a right to use that, even though they have frontage on the road on the other side. She bought the right-of-way. The chain of title goes all the way back on both of those parcels of right-of-way in her chain. And the other parties who were all part of it, part of it has to do with tax map numbers. Because you see, tax map numbers, when they started doing tax maps, were done right after World War II. So parcel 3738, which is what they're trying to divide, has never been divided because it's got a straight number. But 3716, there's 16A, 16B, there's a bunch of 16, and you can see 3732A, there's 32A through 32M, and all those are subdivided off the original property, and the original property is where the grant was to. So she owns it, but those other people have a right-of-way, and there's actually a road maintenance agreement that was entered into by all of those parties back in 2007.
All right, Ligon, that long, narrow strip there, it says UNK 7, is I'm reading that right?
That's unknown, nobody knows where that is, or who
All right.
that belongs to.
That's what I'm wondering.
That's one-
It says on the tax maps, what does it say if you click on it?
This little slice right here.
Yeah. If
And it just
I'm
says unknown.
hearing-
Let me see if Mr. Kovich's
Yeah, if I'm hearing it correctly, she's saying that she owns that.
She doesn't own that. There's a 10-foot strip that runs next door, next to 3738. And then there is a 20-foot wide right-of-way that was pre-existing right-of-way that goes back into the 20s that was to the left of that. One is 3237M, one is 3237N. If you go to the blow-up of her property, it'll show 5 tracts that she owns, if you're searching her name. And she actually owns those 2 tracts.
Okay. The point that puzzles me then, if she doesn't actually own that little strip there,
That's on the other side.
that's on the other side of Old Home Place Lane.
Right. If
She
that was
owns
on the-
that.
She says she owns Old Home Place Lane.
Correct. She does.
She's claiming M and N.
M and N are both.
N is the 10-foot and M is the 20?
Let's see.
Click on N right there.
Yes, N is 10 feet by 605 feet, I believe, and it's .418 acres. M is .832 acres.
But she can't own N if that came from, that 10 feet came from the Carpenter piece.
It was deeded to her. There is a deed to that 10 feet. There is a reservation in that for them to use, and we contend that they have a right to use the 10 feet, but that's all. Because there was no grant. You can reserve
Okay,
it.
this is.
Where's the road now?
It's
Is
not.
the road on M or N?
It's on M and N.
Yeah, it's on
It's
both.
30 feet,
down
it's
the
30
middle,
feet
but,
wide.
And she's claiming the 10 feet.
She's claiming that he owns 10 feet. but
I could drive down the
she-
shoulder. I could drive down the shoulder.
I realize what you're talking, yours is a practical solution, but I understand. Legally, she owns the dirt.
Okay, and
And-
she objects to using
She
this.
objects to using it, yes, for the purpose of accessing 3738.
All right, and this,
So how long ago did she split these blocks off? Because she hasn't been long ago to split those blocks off, because she bought all that as one piece, as I remember.
No, she bought it from Hebron Valley as 3 pieces. 5 pieces, actually, it's 5 pieces. She just has one deed from them. It's 5 pieces in that deed, which include the 2 pieces that are the right of way.
2015?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So no parcel, this parcel can't be accessed at all via that Old Home Place?
Well, I mean, if the county wanted to approve a 10-foot right-of-way, they would have to stay on the 10-foot.
we can't approve a 10-foot right.
I mean, you're only approving 30-foot, which is less.
So
than-
even with them showing a residue, one parcel being accessed, I mean, that can't happen according to your position?
Mr. Carpenter, I would suggest,
This is not.
this is a fairly significant issue that I
Yeah.
think needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
Lurking in this is a concept called prescriptive easements, meaning that if the neighbors have used that property, won't bore you, the acronym is CHAIN, I think, but in any event, if they have used it for 15 years continuously and notoriously, so that the neighbor knew and it was detrimental to them,
And there's pretty
then
good
at least a
evidence this is-
portion of this issue may go away.
Yeah.
But I would be very uncomfortable putting the Board of Supervisors in a position to vote on this, because,
Yeah.
if you enjoy lawsuits, this is a good way to get another one.
But even as prescriptive, it doesn't necessarily, we're not saying that this parcel has been using it. I mean, and that's not she's not challenging people that use the road. It's the new lots. So, but I think you're right, we're probably, just not to interject, but probably our best bet is to put this on hold and y'all work this and
Sure.
see if you can come to some sort of agreement or not agreement.
First I knew about it was about 4:30.
Right, and me too. And I was always have been working on what Mr. Will provided me and showed us. And, they have a different opinion.
I apologize for being so late, but I mean, she told me about she had heard rumors about this going on. But
Right.
that didn't have anything for me to appear. We've done the title search, and we're waiting to just see what happened and who we needed to contact, and we didn't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Let them see where this goes. If you know, if it ends up before a judge, so be it. I mean, you know, that's fine, but we'll just hold on, and if he comes back, it, you know, and
I
changes.
mean, the road, this property's been using that road for, 60 years, 70 years, you know, so it's no problem.
Okay.
At the very least, before we finish tonight, we would have had to have eliminated one of the options anyway, because
Sure.
we can't bring this to the board with two options.
Sure, no, that's fine.
I said I wasn't gonna mention this again. Have you investigated the possibility that this was an old county road?
I did not.
If you, now, it doesn't show on our GIS maps.
Mhm.
They're not accurate apparently. If you look at it on a Google Earth,
Mhm.
you can see that this road does in fact go, and it's well-maintained. It's a good
Mhm.
road. It goes all the way through to the mountain.
Who keeps those maps?
You can, from the county website, you can pull up your tax map, and then go over here and you can click on Google Earth.
Yeah,
that's
but
one
I'm
of the
talking
options.
about like the 1932 maps
Oh,
or
oh.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, VDOT is your best resource,
Okay.
yes.
All right. No, that's fair enough. I'm
Well-
happy to table this. And
Well,
I'll
that's
contact
only
you.
step one. Then you've got to search the Board of Supervisors minutes.
talked to VDOT? No, I haven't, but based on the contention, the information we have, there's nothing to show that it was ever a county road. And if it was, it's now been specifically sold.
If it hasn't been abandoned by the Board of Supervisors, it's still a county road.
That is correct.
If you can get, try to prove one abandoned is a lot of fun.
But yeah, I'm happy to table. It's no problem.
Okay. Yeah, because we can't deal with the, the legal issues.
Mr. Chairman, for my
Yes, sir.
edification.
Yes, sir.
I'm new, I apologize. If you want to deal with this later, we can do it. But I've got a question. We've got, and here and in a number of other cases I've looked at over the years, we've got split zoning. So we've got a 3-acre lot that's A1, and he's going to add to that 1/6 of the R1 for the 4.6 residual. The allowances on R1 and A1 are quite a bit different. So A1 has a lot of things by right, including everything under C1. That, and if that is at the end of the lane, assuming that there is a lane at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of commercial stuff that could go on by right. And does that affect the kind of opening we have on Ridgeview, if that's to happen? Or in the past, have we just said, you know, rather than have that issue and problem, let's just call everything R1? Or does that require a separate zoning initiative?
Yeah, I think, we've seen a couple of these where they're split zones like this, but that's the smallest, I think, split zoned A1 that I've ever seen.
Yeah, but and see, they obviously can't have highly intensive livestock operations.
Right, 'cause of that.
But if they've got over 2 acres, they can certainly have livestock. Which, you know, it's a country, I don't mind livestock at all. Some people that are buying R1 lots might object. But I'm just wondering, there is noticeable differences
Yeah.
between A1 with its encompassing C1 and R1.
Basically, I guess, whoever buys that lot number 7 there, they can build their house on R1, and then they can fence off A1 and raise cattle. So,
Or pigs, or, yeah, sheep or horse, or,
yeah,
yeah. By right, or have livestock processing.
well, with that,
Mhm.
yeah. They're-
Not under C1. Not under C1, because A1 gets all C1, according to my understanding.
But there are size limits on the processing, I think.
Yeah, there are, on some of,
Yeah, but, you know, there are all kinds of potential problems with this as far as future.
yeah. So I was wondering, have we ever entertained just saying that they all have to be R1 when we're doing something like this?
Well,
I think you can change
We-
the
we-
zoning on a piece of
Yeah.
property without having a landowner
Well, and I think that's the,
That clearly
that's the key to
goes
this question. I mean,
far back, yeah.
And again, it goes back to, you know, the distinction, I won't bore you with the Byrd Act and everything else, but there were roads in existence, but if they were not maintained, there's some question as to what type of road they were. Now, of course, the old maxim was a road, once a road, always a road. We have seen that changed a little bit over the last 25 years, but, you know, it'll be an interesting lawsuit to watch. From the
Not
sideline.
participate in, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I know, well, there's obviously a reason why the county road sections are still in our ordinances. Because there were county roads all over Madison. And in I guess, was it 1932, I guess it was, when the state took over
That is correct.
roads, they refused to take some.
That is also
But they were
correct.
still county roads.
Yeah, most of them schoolhouse roads.
Well, I mean, they're all over the county.
Yeah.
There's one that runs through my property. And that's on, not on any deeds either. But nevertheless, it's still a road there.
Again, I defer to Mr. Slayton and Mr. Will.
Yeah, I think our best approach is let them work on this and see what they
It's
come back
obviously
with.
gonna
And, there's always there's option one, and if that's, we'll just go ahead and table this.
Yeah, that, of course, that's up to Mr.
Yeah, that's the
Ashby.
applicant's
I
prerogative.
mean, right, I mean, I think I heard you said that would, you want to get this worked out before we go to hearing, right.
I may just choose to do that other option. I got everything in place to do it, so.
Right, well, I think it sounds like you probably want to just explore this option too a little more to make sure. So, and the ad wasn't going to go till Friday, so I can just simply scratch that. And we'll talk. Okay.
Yeah, we're still left with, I mean, assuming you go with the option where you build a whole new road and just avoid Old Home Place Lane, that still puts us with 7 lots, which is going to be a problem too. Well, no, I guess you could get out of that by just putting another entrance there on your lot 1. I'm sure you can get around that, but
That's right, that's right.
good luck. Okay. I expected that to take longer.
Meetings getting shorter.
Yeah, I know. Okay. We
I'm just
do
happy to be
have-
back.
Yeah. Welcome back, yeah. We missed you. Just a quick public hearing preview. Unless we actually have somebody here to discuss this, I guess we'll just.
Well,
preview it.
Mr. Esch is,
Oh, okay, all right. Preview, case number S-10-23-18. Oak Grove Mennonite Church has submitted a site plan to expand their existing private school facility. The submitted site plan shows a new addition/school structure connected via a breezeway to the parcel's existing church building. The proposed one-level new structure would contain roughly 8,800 square feet, a square foot gymnasium, a roughly 8,800 square foot gymnasium, and a roughly 10,880 square foot classroom school area for a total of 19,680 square feet under roof. The applicant has submitted a stormwater management plan to the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality and an erosion/sediment plan to the Culpeper Soil and Water Conservation District. Both plans are pending approval. The subject 16.9-acre A1 agriculture zone parcel contains 2 postal addresses, 571 and 563 Tom Johnston Road, Aurora, Virginia, and the parcel is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 49-67B. Ligon left us. Did he say you were gonna? Okay, thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
Again, I'm Al Esch, and I'm trustee on the board here at the church. Be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have.
Mr. Chairman, before we go into this, is this being treated as the first workshop appearance for this property, or is this
Actually,
just sort of a
this is-
billboard?
It had been on the docket before.
Yeah, this is, actually, this is the site plan offering, and this, I think Ligon has it set up as a preview. It's not, this is not
So this is not considered a
Not
workshop?
considered the
Okay,
first.
that's fine, thank you.
Is that right, Ligon? This is not considered the first of the two, this is a preview.
We're looking at October 4th, so we'll have one more chance. I mean, the only,
So this is a
So
workshop.
this is the first workshop.
well, this will be first, and we've looked at it before. So the two things, are, you know, VDH and VDOT, I mean, that road, I mean, it's a rural road. I mean, they're probably going to say, I mean, I guess they could say a commercial.
It'll just be a commercial entrance.
Commercial entrance, I mean, so that way they can expect that as far as,
And the VDH has our, Tom Basham designed the system. It's already in for a permit.
right.
So that's all been done as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been introduced to this. This is actually the site plan, and we're preparing for that.
Correct.
So we'll VDOT, VDH, and that's pretty much it.
And, I mean, you already know that pretty much they're gonna require the entrance, commercial.
Yeah,
entrance.
correct, yeah. It's gonna all be paved and stuff anyway, so it's no problem.
So generally speaking, the entrance will be better than the state road.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically chip and seal out there.
Right,
I mean, it's got a little pavement on it, but it's not too much.
Any questions on this? I mean, this looks pretty complete. Looks like everything's in order.
I mean, just before construction, obviously, we'll have ENS, stormwater.
Everything is at DEQ and it's
Right, you've
all
already got
been-
that. So
yeah,
they're,
Culpeper Soil and Water, it's all been
they've got those
submitted
plans,
as well,
right.
yeah.
So they're kind of ahead of the game. I mean,
Yeah.
really, the planning commission just looking at the site,
Yeah, all of that's out of our
I
purview.
mean, right.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, for Cardi's benefit is, one of the things that, for consideration here is a little bit of grandfathering in with its agricultural, it's A1, I think it's zoned A1, and the school and the church has been there for, I think they would say 65 or 70 years or whatever. And so, it is a grandfather situation with the zoning aspect of it. I don't know if there's any questions that'll come up about that at all, or if there's any restrictions, with that. That would have been the only one that I would have had a question about.
And if I remember right, were those structures gonna be demoed?
Only one. The main auditorium of the church will stay, and it gets connected with a breezeway to the new gym. But then the older building out closer to the road, they anticipate demoing that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we had already been through the site plan is the second step. We've already been through the approval of the addition to the school, right? Because that's a special use permit, but it's right there in C1, which means it goes in A1 as well. Any other question on that?
I'll just say I'm glad to see you guys expanding and doing some stuff. It's gonna be really neat down there with what you
Thank you,
guys have planned.
appreciate that.
And just FYI, I think the one on Good Hope Church, I mean, we went through this about a year ago, I think it was. I hadn't heard directly, but I think I've heard, not directly from Ms. Garth, but that has been kind of shelved. So, I don't know totally why, but.
Well, they have a 2-year period, or there's a time period on the SUP with them there.
I don't think there's any limit. I just don't
limit?
think, I don't think they're gonna do it. I just think, but just FYI.
Besides, this is just an addition on the existing building, right?
Well, I mean,
It's a breezeway.
yeah, but it's quite a bit. We're blessed to have, we've got about 60-some kids in school right now, and Sunday morning when you dismiss for Sunday school, they just scurry like ants all over the place, and it's nice to see. It's exciting. It's exciting for the future to have that there. So we finally felt like fire department like we did out here and sweat to death, trying to eat food.
Anyone else have any question or comment on this? Looks pretty straightforward. Okay, thank you, sir.
Very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, the night is young. Any additional items? All right, any public comment on anything?
I'll just let's
Yes.
make clear, on the first case, we are going to just table that and do more study on boundary line adjustment. I mean, just to make, I'm sure,
We can table it.
He can.
He can.
I'll talk to him if that's, I'd say that's what he wants to do. That's the only one I'm confused about. As far as on Al, Mr. Esch's, on Country View, I think that we're
I'm requesting that.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I will talk to Mr. Jenkins on this, and Mr. Gayhart, and see what they want to do.
Yeah,
And
if possible, basically, we just would like to not see a non-conforming lot there. That's basically it. And we definitely don't want to get caught between lawyers. Yes, sir.
This is just me talking, okay? But I think one of the things where you're getting a little bit hung up on that lot thing is that you talk about creating a non-conforming lot. You're not creating one. You have one. So that's where I think you need to think through a little bit is you have the lot. You're not creating another non-conforming lot. If you were to cut a piece off the other one and now you create a non-conforming lot, then you have a problem.
Mhm.
But you have not created a non-conforming lot, you just simply have a non-conforming lot.
Well, the 1 acre would have been conforming before
Because it
zoning
was already there, yeah.
was already there.
Yeah, so I think can't get too hung up on the creation, because you're not creating one. It's been created already.
If he uses the 1 acre.
Correct. But you can expand that to make it closer. You're not creating another lot. It's still the same lot, still has the same tax map. I ain't no lawyer, but I was saying.
well, you've been around this for a little while.
And in other localities, they look at that favorably. Culpeper would allow you to do what he did here. I questioned it too. I think it's a little crazy that I could own 50 acres and I could just take this tax map and just swindle it wherever I good and well feel like it. Like, that doesn't quite sit right with me. But they will, in a Culpeper, they will allow you to do that. Right or wrong, I'm not arguing that, but I think we need to be a little bit careful. You're not creating a non-conforming lot because it was already created.
Let me ask you another question, Sean. Is when he did this boundary adjustment, if any part at all, just a little teeny corner of that existing lot touched what he did the boundary adjustment to, isn't that legal?
In all likelihood, yes. A lot of it depends on the extent. If it's a single point, that's right.
But if it's a 10-foot corner that he could prove that was.
The bigger it is, the stronger the argument.
Do you know where this is defined anywhere? Because we've been looking for a definition for a boundary line adjustment.
The first I heard of this is when I got an email from Ann about it.
Yeah.
So I have not researched this at all.
Well, my understanding is, and it's an understanding, mind you, that if he kept a little 10-foot piece or a 15-foot piece there that still touched all that he moved, then that's considered, the way I understand it and always have understood,
Well,
that's a boundary
I have
adjustment.
done that for clients before.
So
but
did you
the
know,
rule
Lincoln?
is-
Yeah, I mean, again, I know in Rockingham, and that was the.
Well,
If-
I mean, do you know, or
that
does
was-
he know if there's a little piece?
Yeah, I mean, that whole one side is
Oh,
still.
that's- No, but he moved it over.
Right, yeah.
On the other side of the driveway.
Right,
It's on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah, he's basically flipped that lot over and move the lines, I mean, I
So
think.
does any piece of that lot that he flipped over still remain as part of that lot?
Well, the
Where it
boundary line
was.
does, yeah.
All right,
I mean, I'm
if
just
that,
trying to-
if that's true, if he just flipped it like that, and that driveway, yeah, it doesn't, we can't really tell from looking at it, but that driveway looks like it's in a different location.
That's right.
It's,
Well,
it's a different slice of the pizza. That's really what you're talking about.
all right, if he wants, if he wants to do that, can he do it again and just move it back, that one boundary, back across that driveway to where it originally was, and that would satisfy Pete?
But it's not a conforming lot.
No,
Yeah, I mean-
but I agree with you, yeah. He didn't, it doesn't look like he just flipped it over, it looks like he picked it up and moved it,
But if he flipped it over and any part of it, any little part of it still touches the other piece, and that's a legal boundary adjustment, is that correct?
I have done something comparable to that. I got into trouble once, and I had to amend what we had submitted because the county we were working with said, basically, it was a comparable issue to this. And they just, I think we had like 20 square feet, and it got expanded to, I think, 150 square feet. Now, this is a case I handled in literally 1997, so my memory of it's a little vague.
Again, I would ask him to, that's still part of that.
Yeah, I mean, Mr.
I think we can
Gayhart's
tell
obviously-
that from the survey.
Mr. Gayhart's obviously an attorney, so, I mean, he's probably been involved in this. And I actually did kind of just ask Mr. Slayton, just out of curiosity, what he thought, and he said, yeah, he agreed. I mean, I was just kind of curious. So, I mean.
I'm gonna wait and hear from him.
So, anyway, I'll talk to Mr. Jenkins to see, because I don't know if we're not gonna adopt anything between now and then, so.
No, but
I think he will come with the position that, and it's already recorded, so,
well,
so.
that can be amended, though, correct? To Pete's point, our objection is the fact that it's not 3 acres, and we suspect that that boundary line has been moved over. If he moved it back over so that it actually coincided with the pre-existing boundary line on that one side of the lot, and did his flip,
That would address most of the issues.
Yeah, that would address everything except the size, because then that would be accepted as a boundary adjustment that would, and as Mr. Esch said, I think, I hate to say somebody's right, but I think he might be right. That it's not actually considered a new lot. It sounds like, if it's not in fact
Again.
just moving it, yeah.
But the key to that is whether there is what I'm going to call the shared acreage.
Right, something that, where it at least touch the old. See, maybe we solved 2 problems tonight. Or not. It's not our problem to solve, but we can make a suggestion. All right, anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Very good.
Second.
Moved and seconded enthusiastically. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir.